One day, I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband, who 30 years my junior had impregnated a college student and eloped.
You know, we're expecting our fourth child. It's pretty sad for a single childless woman, huh?
He mocked. As usual, my ex-husband spewed heartless words at me, but I just laughed off his comment and retorted, "What? You don't know?" He didn't understand what I meant.
Huh?
I decided to tell my ex-husband the truth. I'm Scarlett, 56 years old. Previously, I ran a liquor store inherited from Dad, managing it with Mom and my husband. But 10 years ago, I decided to switch gears and started running a convenience store. However, running a convenience store meant constant staff shortages, forcing us, the owners, to work tirelessly without much rest. I married a man named David 30 years ago, but 8 years back, he eloped with a 30 years his junior after getting her pregnant. Soon after, I received a divorce application signed by David through the mail. I had no hesitation. I filed it at the city hall and finalized our divorce. For this reason, I haven't been able to claim any alimony in court, but I've been thinking, if I ever find out where David is, I'll go claim it. Initially, David and I had busy yet fulfilling days after our marriage. Upon marrying, David quit his job and started helping out at the store, but he was often out for deliveries and collections, leaving my still healthy dad and me to handle the shop. Dad was a friendly and skilled businessman, attracting many loyal customers and flourishing the business. However, once David started helping, complaints from customers increased, primarily about late deliveries and forgotten orders. Every time there was a complaint, Dad would personally apologize to the customers, but strangely, he never scolded David. I once asked Dad, "Why don't you ever scold David?"
"I'm just grateful he's working it all."
I'll talk to him gently then.
"Don't be too harsh."
One night after work, I approached David. "There have been complaints about late deliveries," I said.
Really? But I've been busy with various things.
"So be it, but you know I've been pretty busy myself." There was absolutely no sign of remorse in David. 10 years later, Dad passed away from lung cancer. I always told Dad that if he didn't quit smoking, he would eventually suffer from lung cancer. And unfortunately, it turned out to be true. Just before Dad passed away, he said to me,
"Take care of the store with Mom and David."
Those were his last words. Because of what Dad said, I worked hard after he was gone. I thought Dad would scold me from heaven if I let this store go under. But sales kept decreasing year after year. Many customers drifted to convenience stores and supermarkets where they could buy alcohol easily. I discussed this with Mom and David. "It seems our kind of store is outdated. We can't go on like this."
You're right.
"I've been thinking maybe we should turn it into a convenience store. A salesperson from a convenience store chain has been visiting us frequently."
Is it okay to start a new business?
"The convenience store headquarters will send support." This is when David spoke up for the first time.
I agree. Selling a variety of things will attract different customers and make it more enjoyable. Plus, there won't be any deliveries.
And so, the liquor store my dad left behind was reborn as a convenience store under a major chain. That was 10 years ago. The biggest issue since restarting as a convenience store was the shortage of staff. Even with help from the headquarters, it wasn't enough. So me, David, and even Mom had to work tirelessly every day as clerks. One day during this routine, David, clearly dissatisfied, said,
I haven't had any time off at all. If I keep working like this, I'll break down.
"You're right, but no matter how much we advertise, we can't get anyone to come."
Delivering beer at the liquor store was easier than this.
"I'm sorry for making it tough on you, David. I'll try to find some part-time workers."
Please do. I need a human life again.
After that day, I used every method possible to recruit part-timers. I had advertised before, but now I even paid to list in multiple job magazines and reached out to my college friends. And, thanks to those efforts, I managed to hire a few part-timers. Among them was a college student named Ava, and little did I know that hiring her would greatly change my life. Ava was cheerful and friendly to everyone. Even I, as a woman, found her smile incredibly charming. Sometime after Ava started working, I felt the number of customers at the convenience store had increased. Checking the data, I confirmed it. There was indeed an increase in customers, especially among men in their 20s. When I told David about this, he said with a pleased smile,
"It's the Ava effect. I thought she was a good fit when we interviewed her."
"Right. Ava is so cheerful, and the customers seem happy when she helps them."
"You need to keep up with Ava."
"I can't compete with a current college student."
"That's true,"
David said, laughing heartily. Ever since Ava started working, David spent more time at the store. Moreover, he always seemed to be there during Ava's shifts. "David, you're scheduling yourself to match Ava's shifts, aren't you?" "Well, it's fine."
"Haha, you caught me. It's more fun working with Ava around."
"I wish you had been this motivated even when Ava wasn't here."
"I'm always doing my best."
I didn't respond to David's words. Ava seemed to enjoy working at our convenience store, and half a year had passed. Moreover, she brought in her friends as part-time workers, resolving our staff shortage. Indeed, Ava had become the savior of our convenience store. Yet, despite the staffing issue being solved, David still scheduled himself to match Ava's shifts. "David, you don't need to come to the store. It would be better if you took some time to rest." David replied with a sullen expression.
"Is it wrong for me to work hard?"
"I'm not saying it's wrong, but you were the one who said you'd break down without rest."
"I'm working just enough to not break down. Leave me alone."
For some reason, David was in a bad mood. I wanted to ask if David was hiding something, but he left before I could. A year had passed since Ava started working with us. She continued to work as usual, but she began to take time off more frequently. When I asked if she was feeling unwell, she only said she was fine. But her demeanor had changed. She smiled less. I consulted with David about it. "Ava has been acting strange lately. She smiles less and sometimes seems lost in thought." David for a moment before responding.
"Ava is a young woman. She might have her own worries. We shouldn't pry too much."
"I think so too, but I'm a bit worried." David said nothing more. 2 weeks after I noticed Ava's unusual behavior, she didn't show up for work without notice. It was unusual for her. She had always been punctual. When I looked at David to discuss this, he looked scared. "David, what's wrong? You seem off." David didn't respond to my question. That day, I worked Ava's shift at the store, and when I came home, I couldn't find David anywhere. When I asked Mom, she said she hadn't seen him for a while. I had a bad feeling and checked David's belongings. Most of his things were gone. I reluctantly called David's mobile, but it was turned off. Then, just to be sure, I called Ava's mobile and got the same message. I told Mom that I thought David and Ava must have gone somewhere together. David and Ava seemed to have gone somewhere together. Mom laughed, not taking it seriously. "That can't be. Ava is such a nice girl. She must have a wonderful boyfriend. Maybe she's with him now." "No, all of David's belongings are gone." "Really?" Mom's smile vanished, and she went to check David's room. "Yes, the travel bag that's always in that corner is missing." "That's right. They must have eloped." Just then, I received a call on my mobile from Ava. "Ava, what's going on? We were worried. This isn't like you."
I'm really sorry.
Ava seemed to be crying on the other end of the phone. "It sounds like you have your reasons, but if it's hard to talk about, you don't have to force yourself." When I said that, Ava burst into loud tears. I couldn't say anything and just waited for Ava to stop crying. After a while, I heard her faint voice.
I'm pregnant.
I was stunned by her words and couldn't speak for a while. As I remained silent, Ava added,
I'm really sorry. The father of the baby is the chairman.
Ava used to call David the chairman and me the president. So hearing this, I was shocked. I could hardly stand. It seemed that Ava was pregnant with David's child. When I could speak again, I asked Ava, "Where are you now? Are you with David? Please come back." Then I heard a man's faint voice on the other end, and the call was abruptly disconnected. I thought that voice was probably David's and that he had hung up. I told Mom, who had been listening to my conversation worriedly, Ava is pregnant, and David is the father. Mom screamed in disbelief when I said that.
That's impossible! I can't believe Ava would do such a thing!
I can't believe it either, but it's probably David's fault. Ava is the victim here.
That's terrible for Ava.
I will never forgive David. I resented David, who was nowhere to be found. David never returned to us, and 8 years passed since he left. In the meantime, I had started managing a restaurant with the savings from the convenience store business. Somehow the restaurant was a hit, and now I owned 3 restaurants. Financially and time-wise, I was comfortable. Mom suggested I remarry, but I had no interest in marriage anymore. One day, on my rare day off, I went to watch a movie alone and then dined at my Italian restaurant. After eating, I looked out of the window and saw my ex-husband David walking by and entering my restaurant. I moved to sit next to my ex-husband and greeted him. "Hello, David. It's been a while. You look well." He turned around, surprised, and stammered,
Why are you here?
"That doesn't matter. I can go wherever I want. I'm single after all."
We're expecting our 4th child. It's sad being a single woman, huh?
My ex-husband still spoke heartless to me, but I laughed off his words and replied, "What? You don't know?"
Huh?
"This restaurant you're sitting in is mine." He seemed not to understand what I was saying.
What are you talking about? This is a famous Italian restaurant in the area. How could it be yours? Have you lost your mind?
I chuckled and said, "It seems you don't believe me. Come with me for a moment." I whispered to the staff and took my ex-husband to the office inside the restaurant. As we entered, a man wearing a manager's badge appeared and said,
Good work, President. Is this gentleman an acquaintance of yours?
"He's my ex-husband, David." My ex-husband seemed to realize the situation as he listened to our conversation and was frozen in place.
Shall I bring some coffee?
"Yes, please, thank you." I turned back to face my ex-husband. "See, David, do you understand now? I'm now the owner of 3 restaurants, including this one." David turned pale.
How did you become a president?
"I worked hard after you left, David."
That's good for you, but Ava is about to arrive here soon.
Hearing that, I instructed the staff to bring Ava to us when she arrived. Soon, Ava was brought to us. She looked puzzled, but upon seeing me, her eyes widened in surprise, and she said,
President, it's been a while. I'm still sorry for the trouble I caused.
"Ava, you've always been such a conscientious person. How is your child today?"
I left them with Mom.
"Why did such a wonderful woman like you end up with David?"
Hey, don't say weird things. Ava loves me. Right, Ava?
Ava remained silent, looking down, tears streaming from her eyes. "All right, no need to show off how close you are. But David, aren't you forgetting something?"
What?
"Do I need to spell it out, or are you pretending not to understand? Which is it?"
Just say it clearly.
"Well, I will. 8 years ago, you ran away with Ava, escaping from me. Do you understand what that means?" My ex-husband's face turned even paler.
You drove me away.
I was speechless at his response. What nonsense to say I drove him away. "What are you talking about? When did I ever drive you away? Stop talking nonsense!" I was shouting, my face red with anger. David, surprised and intimidated by my fury, stayed quiet. Then Ava spoke up.
President, please forgive me. It's all my fault.
Ava said, crying, then broke down completely. "About the matter earlier, David will be paying my legal security deposit."
Legal security deposit? What's that? Why?
"Obviously, you left and later sent me divorce papers."
You agreed to it, so it's fine, isn't it?
"I never agreed to it. I always thought I would never forgive you, David."
I didn't know that.
"I also have the right to receive a legal security deposit from Ava, but Ava was a student back then, a victim tricked by you, David, so I'm not going to ask Ava for it. Instead, I'll take a substantial amount from you, David."
Stop it! I don't have that kind of money.
"Fine, let's fight it out then. I have a contract with the lawyer as a restaurant owner. I'll discuss the legal security deposit with him. Maybe you should hire a lawyer too." Hearing this, my ex-husband realized he had no chance of winning, and his attitude and tone suddenly changed.
"Scarlett, can you please spare me from the legal security deposit?"
Suddenly a change in attitude, but my stance remains the same. I will definitely demand the legal security deposit and ensure you pay it in full, no matter what. Then Ava approached me, apologizing deeply.
President, please forgive David. It's my fault for not refusing him when he approached me. Please, forgive him.
Ava, I understand how you feel, but this is between me and David, and we were married, so your apology can't change anything. I'm sorry. Hearing this conversation, David, with a pale face, said,
"That's right. It's not my fault. Ava came on to me."
I interrupted David, shouting angrily,
"Stop it! Such a pathetic excuse. You are the worst, David."
Ava, hearing his words, broke down crying. I went over to Ava and said, "Ava, staying with such a man won't bring you anything good. It's your decision, but let me give you some advice."
"Please, Scarlett, forgive me."
"No, I will never forgive you." I called the manager over. "Manager, these people are leaving. Please see them out." The manager looked surprised at the apologetic pair. A month later, Ava came to my house.
"President, I'm really sorry for everything. I divorced David recently. I couldn't forgive what he said the other day."
"Is that so? What will you do now?"
"My mom agreed to look after the kids, so I will work. It's going to be tough, but I plan to raise the 4 children by myself."
"Ava, how about working at my restaurant? I can hire you right away." Hearing this, Ava's face lit up with a smile.
"Really? Thank you so much. Honestly, I was worried about finding a job."
"If you're okay with it, you can start working tomorrow."
"Of course. I'll do my best from tomorrow. Thank you."
"If you work hard, I might even make you a manager in the future." Ava had tears in her eyes upon hearing this. After Ava left, I told Mom about it. "Ava was always such a good girl. I'm glad she's coming back to us." The next day, I consulted with my lawyer about the legal security deposit. The lawyer calculated and presented an amount higher than I had expected.
"We will handle all the legal security deposit claims. We'll make sure to collect the full amount to the very end."
I smiled and said, "Collecting it sounds like a loan shark's job." The lawyer and I laughed together. Later, the lawyer repeatedly demanded payment from David, who was reluctant, and monthly installment payments of the legal security deposit began. I decided to give all the money to Ava for her 4 children's childcare. According to the lawyer, David said dejectedly,
"My life is over."